and I'm going to introduce him in a minute, but I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about what I've heard from you as we've traveled across the district as to what the issues are most important to you. And they continue to be jobs, spending, Washington is broken, and a stronger America, both at home and abroad. And when we talk about jobs, we can look directly to Washington, D.C. and know that what Nancy Pelosi and President Obama are doing is not working, and it continues to create uncertainty in the workforce as it relates to this job-killing legislation, whether it be health care, cap and trade. I recently started telling people, and I mean this with much conviction, that we all need to start being on, we need to be on our knees now about what's going to happen after November 2nd, because we can and we will, I firmly believe, win back a majority in the House, but there's that lame duck session that we've talked about several times, that we all need to be very, very concerned about the amount of damage that this Congress is going to do before the new Congress takes office. Again, going back, health care, cap and trade, card check, all of these things, people who have the ability to create jobs aren't, because they're afraid of how it's going to affect their bottom line. And we see this all across Southeast Alabama. We see it all across Alabama, and of course across the United States. And we need a Congress that understands that when we put money back into the hands of the business owner, then that's how you create jobs. Growing government is not the way we get this country back on track. We've got to stop this spending spree. And again, I know Congressman Walden's going to touch on all of these things. But as we watch our deficit continue to grow to proportions, and I know he's got some charts that he's going to show you that demonstrate where we are right now. Again, an unbelievable debt for my children and my children's children. I'll point back to the reference on the City Council. I understand what it's like to take a budget and have to, because we're required by law to balance our budget. And our federal government is not. And I certainly would support a balanced budget amendment. I support line item veto. We need all of these things to get our federal government back in check. But if you look at my record on the City Council and my experience in Montgomery, is that you can decrease the size of government. You can. It doesn't always feel good, and it takes somebody that can show and demonstrate leadership and has the guts to stand up to the mad telephone calls. Everybody wants to cut until you cut me. But it takes that kind of leadership, and I'm prepared, if given the opportunity, to represent you in Congress with, of course, the help of many other congressmen like Congressman Walden, to do that as a unified front, that we have got to stop the spending spree. You'll hear also Congressman Walden talking about Washington is broken and we need to fix it. The lack of transparency and accountability that we have watched and we've seen demonstrated by Nancy Pelosi and her leadership team over the course of the past year and a half is absolutely mind-boggling. When they shut the door on debate, don't let the public in, are creating these backroom deals that affect our day-to-day lives. I'll never forget being in Washington and running into Congressman Walden at the elevators in a building, and he said, "Martha, stay tuned. We've got a discharge petition that we're about to put on the floor." And a discharge petition is a procedural maneuver whereby they can essentially take the gavel away from Ms. Pelosi and bring up an issue for a vote. And it can't be blocked if 218 members sign the discharge petition. And this was on a bill, a transparency bill, that would allow access from the public and give each Congress member a 72-hour window to actually read the legislation that was going to come up for a vote. Our congressman, who was an original sponsor of the bill, still has not signed that discharge petition for that 72-hour rule. I tell people all the time the story of watching C-SPAN the day of the cap and trade vote and seeing John Boehner, Leader Boehner, stand on the floor and say, I was awoken this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning to the sound of my fax machine. And do you want to know what was coming over my fax machine? A 300-plus page amendment. And this was at, what, 10, 11 o'clock Central Time that he was making this argument on the floor. And he said, who's had time here to read these 300 pages that are going to affect what this legislation looks like? And my friends, I would submit to you that it's that type of lack of transparency in Washington that we've got to change. We need a stronger America, both at home and abroad. And of course, we are the United States of America. Our values are the envy of the world. And we need someone representing us from here in the 2nd District that believes in what we believe in. And I believe in the sanctity of life, the protection of the Second Amendment, and the central role of faith and family in our lives. And I will never waver. And you can trust that when representing you, that those values will be represented as well. And we have 2 of the strongest military installations in the world right here in the 2nd District with Fort Rucker and Maxwell Gunner. And we need a congressman that's going to fight to keep them the tip of the spear in our nation's warfighting machine. And I will do that. And where we're not under any current threat of BRAC, stay tuned. Because with Washington's addiction to spending and our defense budget, which is discretionary, we can all rest assured that the more debt we incur, the more likely that we might see that come down the pipe. So I will fight for our bases. I will fight for you. I won't just vote right. I will fight for you every time I'm given the opportunity. We talk about hope. There is some hope. The real hope is November the 2nd, and we can send a message to Washington. This is about numbers. This is about one very important number, and that's 39. Because we need 39 seats to win back a majority so we can elect conservative leadership. Then we can start getting our country back on track. It's now that I want to introduce Congressman Walden, who represents Oregon 2, which is a 20-county district that is in square miles larger than the state of Alabama. He is right now traveling all over the country for candidates like me that are running to help win back that majority. And I met Congressman Walden for the first time in the 2-day trip that I took to Washington as my husband and I were prayerfully entering the decision whether or not to run for this seat. And I was very encouraged by Congressman Walden. And like I said before, he is certainly one of the good guys. He is the chairman of the Republican leadership, and he is doing everything he can to ensure that we and our values are being represented. But as he's going to explain to you and probably articulate it much better than I can since he's in the thick of things, how important and how crucial a time this is for our country. And so, Congressman Walden, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to join you. I'm delighted to be here in Troy. Mayor, the councilwoman here may have won with 82% in her council district, and that's terrific. I want the water, though, to figure out how you get to be mayor for 28 years. That's truly remarkable. What it tells me is you know how to govern appropriately and with transparency and to understand the needs of your community.